How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello, America. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. I'm delighted to have you with me. I'm going to, tread dangerous ground here. I know it's dangerous ground because I said on social media what I was going to talk about, and wow, did it drive people on the left insane, that I would suggest the left has a murder industrial complex. But I think they do. I think it speaks for itself. I want to go back to the district attorney in Utah County, Utah. I think his name is John Gray. And the Media Research Center helpfully compiled some of the audio here. Credit to the Media Research Center. They do such great work consistently. I need to play you the audio from the district attorney there, because I need to set the stage here for you. This is the district attorney, Utah County, Utah.
I'm not answering. Robinson, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. Robinson, I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. Again, you are all I worry about, love. That came from Robinson. Roommate, I'm much more worried about you. Robinson, don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. The search for Robinson's residence. Police executed a search warrant on Robinson's residence. During that search, police discovered a shell casing with etchings like the etchings found on the shells in the rifle near UVU.
That's the district attorney. One more clip from him.
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate.
You got that? That's the district attorney saying those things. The mother said that he was leaning more and more left. The mother saying that he was becoming essentially radicalized. The mother, of course, saying that he and his father had differing views. Robinson telling his partner that his father had gone full MAGA. Robinson becoming more pro-gay rights, more pro-transgenderism, and Charlie Kirk was spreading hate. Now listen to this. Listen to this exchange from Caitlin Collins to Ted Cruz.
You said a lot there, and we don't have a motive yet. We don't know yet. We're waiting. Obviously, we've heard what the governor's had to say, what the FBI director said today.
Come on, we don't have a motive yet.
We know.
We don't have a motive yet.
What's
really?
happening with?
Really, that's CNN's position.
I mean, from law enforcement,
he just happened to fire the gun.
From law enforcement, we don't have a. You just heard the district attorney say this today. This is last night. This is Caitlin Collins after the district attorney press conference.
Celebration. You can't tell the motive.
Senator, that's not what I said. And I said law enforcement hasn't laid out a direct motive. They've laid out a lot of evidence here of these messages and what
actually
the
they
shooter
have.
said
They've
to
said that
family
he was a
members
left-wing
and to
activist who
roommates.
hated Charlie Kirk. Pardon?
Senator, with all due respect, you know exactly what I'm saying. I'm not arguing with you politically. I'm saying that law enforcement has not put a specific motive. You know that there's a difference of what they're putting in a legal argument than what you're talking about.
Wait. What they're putting in a legal argument is the motive, you idiot. Again, this is the district attorney, chief law enforcement officer within the county, the district attorney, the prosecutor.
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate.
Caitlin Collins, I realize I went to law school and practiced criminal law, and you didn't. You're just a journalist. But as a lawyer who practiced criminal law, I'm sorry that the district attorney did not bring out a band, strike up the drums, and say, announcement of the motive, before he said that. But there's your motive, Caitlin Collins. There's your motive. The fact that Caitlin Collins would argue with Ted Cruz, who, by the way, is a brilliant lawyer, whether you like him or not, he's arguably a brilliant lawyer. I'm baffled by, and again, the murder industrial complex of the left. You can talk about right-wing violence all you want, but if it's left-wing violence, there's got to be a butt Trump angle. In fact, this is the conversation with Scott Jennings after the governor of Pennsylvania gave a both sides do it speech.
He's got a point.
Well, I think his point would be strengthened if he were honest today about who burned his house down. You know, it was a Free Palestine leftist who came and burned down the governor's mansion. He left that out. He left that out of his tweet today, and he's talking about cherry-picking political violence, and we're talking about where there might be political violence. The violence against the governor of Pennsylvania and his family came from the left. And so I think, look, I think there's a rush by Democrats who want to be president in 2028 to try to turn. Somehow Donald Trump's friend gets shot, and now everybody wants to blame Donald Trump for it. I guess that's what you have to do to get elected president as a Democrat.
We are not doing that sitting here, okay? And Kate, please go ahead.
Is that not what's happening? People are pointing.
The governor's point is it doesn't matter where the violence came from.
I think it might.
Should be condemned.
Shouldn't it matter the motivations of the people?
It should be condemned regardless. Is the entire point of his speech.
Don't you care about the motivations?
To sit here and suggest that somehow him not mentioning it was some sort of sleight of hand,
of course it is.
Try to make it seem like it was.
I don't think his political party would accept it.
You missed the entire point of what he was saying, and it's.
See, none of them can allow Scott Jennings to make that point. Caitlin Collins, they can't talk about the motive of the left. It is their murder industrial complex. They will excuse it. And you know where they're headed with this, by the way. They're headed with this to, this guy's a civil rights icon. That's right. They're already beginning to say, Montel Williams last night on TV says he was protecting his trans partner. This is Matt Gutman, a reporter from ABC News after the press conference. Again, thanks to Media Research Center for these two clips I'm about to play.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate, who is transitioning calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was.
By the way, you should note, he never said, I want to protect you. Matt Gutman made that up in the report. There's no text that says, I want to protect you. But Matt Gutman at ABC News claims that there's a text message that says, I want to protect you. It's I can't find it. Other people look, they can't find it. But wait, that was him immediately after the press conference. Here he is later on, having had time to reflect on what he heard, not a spontaneous reaction.
It is. It's heartbreaking on so many levels, Kira. Obviously, Charlie Kirk was murdered brutally in front of a crowd of thousands of people who watched him being shot through the neck and then essentially bleed out in front of him. And I think one of the things that the attorney here made a very fine point about is that a lot of these charges, 7 charges, were aggravated because children were present. Children witnessed this. Children were put in harm's way. And that was something that obviously is aggravating here. And that's one of the reasons that the suspect, in addition to the alleged murder being political in nature, is facing the death penalty. They're going for the death penalty. And on the other hand, there is this duality of a portrait of a very human person, a very human experience from this entire family. As you mentioned it, the mother who essentially discovered that it was her son who had done this, the kid who had got a 34 out of 36 on the ACTs, who had a 4.0, who got a full ride to college here, that kid was the one who allegedly perpetrated. She saw those pictures and said, identified him essentially. And then those text messages. And I don't think I've ever experienced a press conference in which we've read text messages that are so fulsome, so robust, so apparently, allegedly self-incriminating, and yet on the other hand, so touching, right? With the suspect reaching out to his roommate, who is allegedly his boyfriend, who we understand, identified as male at birth, now identifies as female, and the terminology he used. He was trying to protect him. He kept calling him my love. My reason for doing this is to protect you, but also asking him to delete the messages.
Except he never did say, I'm doing this to protect you. You should see Kobe in here. Kobe running the board, just like infuriated with what he's. This is the media trying to circle wagons around an assassin. Caitlin Collins can't pronounce the motive, even though the district attorney gave us the motive. Matt Gutman willing to say on ABC it was political, saying it was to protect his trans partner, his love. Roger Solenberger, who writes for the Daily Beast, and I quote, if we pretend we're in 1950 and swap out the trans stuff for an interracial relationship, that might be a helpful place to start, but it's still all pretty fresh with more to learn. He was protecting the person he loved. You got that? The left doesn't have to account for its violence. If somebody does something on the right, there are lots of lectures from the media about Donald Trump inciting it, his handling of the Paul Pelosi attack, how bad it was, January 6th, all of that, account. When there's left-wing murder that is political, so we don't know the motive. We have no idea. It was done for love. It wasn't politics. It was love. We have to understand it was bad, but it was for love. Love conquers all. We've been in Trump. There's no accountability. The media has become the left's murder industrial complex. They will justify, they will deflect, they will circle the wagons, they will do everything they possibly can to avoid looking at the problem. And here's the problem. 25% of very progressive individuals in this country say they are acceptable with violence in politics. A significant number of 18 to 25-year-old progressives say they are okay with violence in politics. 70% of people on the left say they wouldn't be in a relationship with people on the right. 60% say it's okay to break up friendships with people on the right. And they are the overwhelming demographic suffering from despair because they think the world is coming to an end. And Donald Trump is a would-be tyrant, second coming of Hitler, unless he is stopped. And that's fueled by their murder industrial complex called the American mainstream media. This is only the beginning of left-wing violence in this country because the press corps, CNN, not MSNBC, which is a left-wing network. CNN, which pretends it's not a left-wing network, is incapable of having an honest conversation about left-wing violence because they can listen to the entire district attorney's press conference and still not conclude what the motive was. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. Let's hop to the phones. Clark, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Eric. I'm good. How are you?
Great. What's going on?
Hey, so just listening to your broadcast, I'm on my lunch break, and hearing what you have to say about the left's reaction to the pretty clearly politically motivated assassination of Charlie Kirk, I just find it very interesting how the left has put themselves in a situation where simultaneously they want to play dumb and be dishonest. So we don't know what the motive is. He was a right-wing fringe guy, but simultaneously celebrate the death pretty openly as soon as it happened all over the country. And I think it just kind of speaks to how dishonest, everyone's being about the whole situation. And it frankly makes me sick.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think that's well said. I got to say, a buddy of mine wrote a piece. I'm trying to pull it up on the website right now, and where he points out, this really isn't a time for theatrics by either side, by the beating of chests on the right or the denials of the left. People do need to be honest, and I agree with them. I've declined a number of invitations to go on CNN in the last number of days. I went on with Anderson Cooper once because I knew it would be a good conversation, but I generally declined all of the invitations because what they wanted to do is have me be a Republican to come on and say what Republicans are doing is bad. And I'm like, no, what you guys are doing is bad. Your refusals to hold the left accountable are bad. And I got real issues with the way it's being handled. News Nation beat CNN this weekend in the 25, 54-year-old demographic. There's a reason for that, and it has a lot to do with the dishonesty at CNN these days, moving clearly, distinctly, editorially to the left, offering very little wiggle room between them and MSNBC when you can't discern the motive from the statement of the DA. Now, let me tell you about my bank, Old Glory Bank. They're on the right. They're conservatives, started by conservatives, Ben Carson, Larry Elder, John Rich, and others. They wanted a bank that would protect conservatives from the progressive debanking trends out there. In particular, even through their capitalization structure, was through Main Street. It wasn't through Wall Street to minimize the opportunity for progressives to buy shares of the bank. They're one of the fastest growing banks in the country. OldGloryBank.com/Eric is their website where you can go get an account. I have a checking and a savings account with Old Glory Bank. Checking and savings. You can go to oldglorybank.com/Eric. You can do business accounts with them. You can do checking, savings, get mortgages, home equity lines of credit. You can get car loans. You can get CDs. They're a fully operating bank. They're an online bank. You can deposit cash, however, at 88,000 retail locations around the country, and it works. I've used it plenty of times. oldglorybank.com/Eric, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. If you're interested in a new bank, check them out. oldglorybank.com/Eric, ERICK. Hello there. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. I want to, well, first of all, I need to tell you Matt Gutman has released a statement. Matt Gutman of ABC News, after his using touching to describe the text exchange. Yesterday, I tried to underscore the jarring contrast between this cold-blooded assassination of Charlie Kirk, a man who dedicated his life to public dialogue, and the personal, disturbing text read aloud by the Utah County attorney at the press conference. I deeply regret that my words did not make that clear, but let there be zero doubt here. I unequivocally condemn this horrific crime and the pain it caused Charlie Kirk's family, those who were forced to witness it at UVU, and the millions of people he inspired. Look, I'll take him at a statement. I think I try to take people at their statements. I try to do that. I try to not go postal on people for making those sorts of mistakes on the fly. I've been on live TV. I know live TV is hard. I mean, I speak for 3 hours a day on the radio. Sometimes I say things that afterwards, like, I probably shouldn't have said it that way. I get it. I get it. It was still an odd first reaction that these messages were so touching. Before I move on to anything else, I need to put this out there because I've seen a lot of people say that these text messages don't seem real. The words used, they seem like legalese. In fact, there are now assassination truthers out there who are claiming that there's no way Tyler Robinson and his partner, lover, used these messages, that these are fabricated. The police, the FBI, someone must have come up with them. I'm going to give you what I admit is my own speculation. I see exactly what people are saying in these text messages. These text messages do not sound like a normal conversation. They do not sound like an organic conversation. They just don't. My speculation, it is opinion, that's it, having read these transcripts. This sounds like Robinson trying to provide an excuse to put distance between his partner and the crime, in my mind. This entire exchange sounds very much like Robinson trying to leave a thread, a transcript and text messages behind so that his partner can say, I knew nothing, I had nothing to do with it, whether or not the partner did or did not. And I don't know. But that's the way I read the text messages. They sound very calculated, and that's what actually makes the whole thing even worse, is this wasn't an insane person. This was a coldly calculated play by someone who knew what he was doing, who planned it, who deliberated on it. It wasn't an impulsive thing. And you get that from the text messages. And what I also get from the text messages is he wanted to be able to protect his partner from the police and the fallout of the situation. It wasn't a protection from Charlie Kirk's situation. It was a protection from the investigation situation. And it sounds like in his instructions to delete the text messages and the like, the partner seemed to be pretty horrified and didn't find them as touching as Matt Gutman did. He actually collaborated and cooperated with the police. And I will be honest with you, and I have nothing to base this on, is entirely my speculative opinion. It just sounds like to me that I'm trying to use my words very deliberately here, that the partner collaborating with the police and being as helpful as the partner was part of putting distance between Robinson and his partner. Here's this text message thread. I'm going to tell you in the text message thread to delete the thread, but you need to save it and give it to the police so they know you weren't involved. Now, the question is, does the partner get charged? And if the police buy that it's legitimate cooperation, not going to be charged. If they believe it's all part of a ruse, that the partner was complicit in some way, had foreknowledge of it, and did nothing until after it was over, then they might. We'll see where it plays out. But just my reading of the messages, it reads to me very much like these messages weren't as organic as some people say, that there was a deliberation to a text message chain going that way to protect the partner, not again from Charlie Kirk or trans violence or whatever, but from the police questioning whether the partner was complicit in planning the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, I gotta move on because there's another issue that I want to talk about that is completely unrelated to this. You may have seen the video. It has started to go viral. in Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn, Michigan has fallen to the radicals. They are in Dearborn, Michigan, planning on naming a street after a Hezbollah leader. Hezbollah is the terrorist organization that was responsible for the murder of many Marines in the early 1980s in Lebanon. Hezbollah attempted to kill me when I was a kid, blow up my school in the Middle East because we were Americans. Hezbollah is a deeply anti-American organization, and in Dearborn, Michigan, the Muslim population has become dominant, and they have elected a Muslim mayor, and they have decided to name a street after a Hezbollah terrorist leader. And a non-Muslim resident of Dearborn, Michigan, went to the city council. I wish to play for you this exchange between the mayor and the resident.
Hezbollah, bombed the embassy in Beirut, and including many Americans. So I just feel it's quite inappropriate.
You are an Islamophobe, and although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city, because you are not somebody who believes in coexistence.
That's the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, telling a resident who objected to a shirt. I'm sorry, your reaction over there. I'm blowing my board op's mind today with all this audio. This is the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, telling this resident, let's play this again.
Hezbollah, bombed the embassy in Beirut, and including many Americans. So I just feel it's quite inappropriate.
You are an Islamophobe, and although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city.
Abdullah Hamoud is the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, and he will launch a parade to celebrate the day this resident of Dearborn, Michigan leaves the city because he, a resident, is not welcome in the city because he objected to naming a street after an American murdering terrorist. In Michigan. There are a lot of people who believe that when a Muslim community exceeds 10% of population in a community, they begin to assert themselves in these sorts of ways. Some say it's 20%. It's not actually always the case. Hamtramck, Michigan, for example, became the first Muslim-majority city in the United States in 2015. It's actually the place that confounded progressives because the entire city council got taken over by Muslims, and their first thing was to ban the pride flag. And progressives were like, but they haven't asserted Sharia law. They haven't done any. They're American citizens who they may disagree with me on things, but it's not now there are social problems in that city, but it's not related to being predominantly Muslim. But in Dearborn, Michigan, here, this is the reaction of the mayor to a citizen of the city is you're not welcome here because you're an Islamophobe. And his reason for saying the guy is an Islamophobe is because the guy objected to naming a street after a terrorist, like an actual foreign terrorist of Hezbollah. Just absolutely wild to me that this is happening in parts of the United States, in Michigan no less, where there is a large Muslim population. And again, there are areas of this country with large Muslim populations that have assimilated and integrated so much into the United States, it's not a problem. Where the problem comes from is that progressives over time insisted that assimilation is racism in and of itself, and that everyone should be able to live culturally distinct ways in society without any assimilation. And when you have situations like that, you have societal breakdown. Look what's happening in Europe, where you have ghettos filled with different ethnicities who have immigrated, who there's been no effort to integrate them or assimilate them into society, because within progressivism, it is racist to assimilate people into your society. I'm very glad we live in a largely assimilated society because I love tacos. I absolutely love tacos. I love tacos and beer on Tuesdays. I think it's fantastic. Italian food, I thoroughly love Italian food. Chinese food, I grew up eating lots of Chinese food. I'm from Louisiana. We eat lots of Cajun food. They're all American foods. They're all part and parcel part of the country, and they come from an integration and assimilation of societies. There are certain foods that are more specifically ethnic than others, particularly around religious holidays and religious observances. My Jewish friends and their latkes, my gosh, do I love a good latke. My wife actually makes incredibly great latkes. Brisket. I don't understand anti-Semitism because have you ever had brisket? Because God bless the Jews. And yet the left's like, there should be no assimilation. And in Dearborn, Michigan, we're seeing this problem where there is no assimilation. That my grandfather immigrated from Sweden. I think he was probably an illegal alien, actually. When he sneaked over to the United States, he assimilated, he learned English, became an American, went back to Sweden when he was old to die and called my Uncle Leif, yes, my Uncle Leif Erikson, and said, you got to come get me. He forgot he liked the United States and hated the cold in Sweden, and he was going to die an American. And he raised his kids to be American. You'd never know my father's Swedish. He's born and raised in Coral Gables, Florida. I have a friend of mine. His parents are from Bombay. As I was a kid, they changed the name to Mumbai. He's one of the biggest rednecks that I know. Dip spitting, country music listening rednecks from South Georgia, and his last name happens to be Patel. And he eats hamburgers and tacos, and he eats curry and naan bread, and he's just a good old boy from the South who happens to be descended from people from India. He was born and raised in the United States, and he is one of the biggest rednecks. He even drives a big Chevy Silverado with jacked up with big tires. And loves the United States, loves Donald Trump, flies his American flag proudly. These are the sorts of people we want. I don't care where you're from in the world. I care, do you want to be an American? And in Dearborn, Michigan, when an American citizen is not welcome in the city because he objects to naming a street after a Hezbollah terrorist, you have real problems in Dearborn, Michigan, which is one of the hotbeds of anti-assimilation sentiment from progressives in the United States. And look, it's where it's getting us. You've got to assimilate into the United States and love the United States. And have you noticed, by the way, it's becoming a thing too, like if you see someone flying an American flag, the odds are they're probably a conservative now. You don't very often see progressives flying American flags. It's very weird. We don't actually have a flag flying at our house because of the trees. We had a flag, but it kept getting stuck in the trees. The way our house is, don't really have a good place to put a flag. Otherwise, I would have one. But now I'm like, maybe I need to plant a flagpole in my yard and defy the homeowner association just so people realize I'm not a wackadoo progressive, because it's becoming distinctively conservative to fly an American flag, which is crazy to think about, and yet it's happening. Have y'all heard about Spirit Airlines trying to turn our nation into Spirit Halloween? The White House, at least. Pilots were told to get off their iPad and steer away from Donald Trump's Air Force One. They were on a collision course over New York as the president of the United States was headed to Great Britain. This is from the Daily Mail. Air Force One was involved in midair drama when a passenger jet as Air Force One ferried Trump to Britain. An air traffic controller was forced to intervene when he noticed the path of a Spirit Airlines jet converging with the president's plane over Long Island. Spirit Flight 1300 traveling from Fort Lauderdale to Boston. The quick-thinking ATC noticed their altitudes and paths aligned over New York. The controller repeated instructions to the pilots of the Spirit Airbus to adjust their course, raising his voice when they did not respond. The audio saw the controller. Don't you love this? The audio saw the controller as opposed to the audio. The controller was overheard telling Spirit Flight to descend and turn 20 degrees. The voice belonging to the controller issued a pay attention. turn 20 degrees right now. Then the voice raises again and says, turn immediately. Traffic's off your left wing by 8 miles. I'm sure you can see who it is. Keep an eye out for him. He's white and blue. And then the instructor says, I got to talk to you twice every time. Pay attention. Get off your iPad. Turn 20 degrees now. Spirit's response is, safety is always our top priority. No, I don't believe it is. No, poor old Spirit Airlines. Y'all, so I was on a beloved Delta flight a few weeks ago, and we pulled up in Atlanta, and they parked us, I think it was Concourse D, and on both sides of, no, it was only to the right side of us were Spirit Airlines. And I looked out the little window, and the doors have the tiny windows, and I said, uh-oh, you guys are parked next to Spirit, be careful. And the flight attendant looks at me and she says, yeah, we got the captain out there putting the tire locks on all the wheels just in case. Holy moly. Everybody gets the joke. My gosh. Poor old Spirit Airlines. It's like the John Chris joke. They asked if a doctor was on board, and he's like, no, there are no doctors on Spirit. They're on Delta. Folks, I got to tell you about Americans for Prosperity. They would love for you to take a step for freedom. If all of us take one step for freedom, we'll be many steps to freedom ahead, back to where our founder's vision for the country was. Go to afpvolunteer.com to learn more and sign up. They'd really like to get 250,000 Americans to take just one step in your community for freedom. Just one step. If 250,000 of us take one step for freedom, we've taken 250,000 steps for freedom in time for our 250th birthday as a nation, committing ourselves to the founder's vision of this country: limited government, local responsibility, collaboration at the local level, federalism, things like that. If you want to find out how you can participate, go to afpvolunteer.com. Americans for Prosperity is the largest and leading grassroots group in the country. They're committed to common sense conservative reforms, limited government, fiscal reform. They help small businesses and individuals and families. afpvolunteer.com is the website you want to go to sign up with Americans for Prosperity. They're a fantastic group, and they'd love for you to take a step for freedom in your community. afpvolunteer.com.